For my final patch that I wanted to show you guys, I wanted to kind of show off something a little bit different. This one is a rhythmic. I would say I called it TechnoScience, so it's sort of like a 4-on-the-4 beat pattern, but I didn't actually use the motion sequencer for this. I wanted to use this all by the internal LFOs in the arpeggiator because I just love doing things that are a little bit different. But this patch was just really fun to see how I could use a bunch of the synced LFOs and the arpeggiator to create a rhythmic sequence based on 2 layers that were using several samples. And in this case, using sort of a zap sound. If we look here in layer 1, using sort of this other sharper attack mad analog noise sample that's kind of going to be representing my hi-hat. And then on layer B, we're using an electro bass patch, which is going to kind of create this sort of accompanying bass line. Let's just hear what that sounds like. I'm going to bring up the volume knob. So how this is actually happening, if I turn off my arpeggiator, you actually stop hearing the beat. I'm going to turn it back on. So you can tell that my first zap and analog noise sample are being sequenced in this way. So I'm going to show you how that's happening. So let's turn off just the bass sound so that we just hear layer A. So you can hear this is my my noise sample and the kick drum, which is the FX1 zap, all being controlled by the arpeggiator to create this rhythm. And so what I've done is I've set it to random. How I'm getting this sort of hi-hat pattern is by using an LFO shape. So if I bring, hear the intensity changing from what I'm changing the amplitude shape of the exponential saw down. You can change that curve down to even make it. And for the kick drum too. So it's just sort of creating this sort of rhythm out of just using LFO shapes, which is kind of fun, and in conjunction with the arpeggiator. You can change this too. What if we wanted to use a different noise sample? Kind of more of a clap sound. I'm using the Morph LFO here too. So that's on oscillator 2. So what if we wanted to change that to something else? Use a mod DOM, you can use a generator. We could just say, let's just use the pitch envelope. Let's see what happens when I do that. Now I'm changing the, let's change that to like something sharper, like a square wave. Now it's sort of creating a sort of like gated effect on the rhythm for the hi-hat. I'm gonna just turn back on layer B and see what it sounds like. Well, it totally changes it. Play with some of the filters here, get some crazy stuff going on. Change some of the filter settings. Let's go into the envelopes too. Let's just start, maybe we can tighten down some of the, close the decay down. Play around with some of the reverb effects. Some kind of fun. Let's just try to mess around with some of the totally changed how the sound started out. It's really fun just to adjust a few parameters and see how drastically you can alter and change the sound completely. So I'm going to start changing the envelope shape of that bass line. Come back to layer A. Turn off the arpeggio for a second. We can do all kinds of stuff here. Set the resolution if we want to change it. See what happens if we alternate. So I'm setting it to alternate. We do down. Back to random. So it's kind of fun.